It's Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. The White House is really going with this Epstein message. More glimmers of heroism amidst the Kerr County, Texas tragedy and the end of an era at an airport near you. Next on the AM Update. President Trump on Truth Social wrote yesterday, quote, "The FBI, under the direction of Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, is back to the basics, locking up criminals and cleaning up America's streets." Mum was the word on Monday from the Commander-in-Chief about his Department of Justice's findings that Jeffrey Epstein absolutely did not blackmail anyone. He didn't have a client list, and he absolutely did kill himself back in 2019. I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you why I didn't have this in the rundown yesterday morning on the AM Update, later on in Air Analysis. But first, this is the message the White House is going with. Asked whether or not this destroys some trust with the MAGA support, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt says,
"What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?"
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. And they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
So that's the White House. The DOJ and FBI committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency, end quote, from Karoline Leavitt. She was also asked by Fox News' Peter Doocy about what in the world Attorney General Pam Bondi was talking about a few months ago when she said she had Epstein's list on her desk.
That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, "DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?" And she said, "It's sitting on my desk right now to review."
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to. And
What in the world is going on? I'll have more to say on Air Analysis. President Trump announced Monday he's levying tariffs against South Korea and Japan beginning in August. Trump announced in two separate posts to Truth Social that the two countries will each face a 25% tariff beginning on August 1st. The president wrote in separate letters addressed to Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, respectively, that the new tariffs will be modified upward or downward depending on U.S.'s relationship with those countries. Trump also announced new tariffs on basically the majority of planet Earth yesterday. Basically anything that moves got a tariff. Markets moved downward. The panicans in control on Wall Street. Flash floods in Texas have now killed more than 100 people over the Independence Day holiday weekend and still left an unknown number of others still missing. The devastation along the Guadalupe River outside of San Antonio has drawn a massive search effort as officials face questions over their preparedness and the speed of their initial actions. Texas Congressman Chip Roy, who represents that district in Texas where Kerr County resides, just praised the first responders' efforts.
Guys are working hard in tough circumstances, in muddy water with lots of debris to do the job that needs to be done.
President Trump says he signed the major disaster declaration for Kerr County. What will be the impact in the weeks ahead?
Well, you saw already this morning, you saw more federal authorities. Most of them have been sort of standing back, providing resources and assets as needed. But once the declaration is signed, then you have people that are more on the front lines. The FBI was out today helping with some of the work. We've got DNA collection going on to try to identify victims. You've got people that are from all the different agencies, FEMA obviously, and others. Dozens of agencies that are here now on the ground. I think there'll be more assets. But look, those assets were already here. And I got to say, the president has been responsive. He's reached out to me personally. The secretary was here yesterday. I called the secretary, Secretary Noem. She responded in 15 minutes. I cannot say enough about how quickly people have responded, both at the local level and at the state and federal level, all of those.
Kudos to Congressman Chip Roy. He's a good guy. Imagine being in his shoes, though, working multiple late nights, if not overnights, last week to try to get the big, beautiful bill across the finish line, to return home and immediately see the devastating and deadly flooding in your own district, and now pulling long days helping out your constituents. Democrat Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass on Monday demanded federal agents leave the scene at MacArthur Park in Los Angeles during their immigration raid. She was caught on camera on the phone telling somebody to get out of her city.
I am going to say,
Mayor Bass, I need to get my phone and we're departing.
Okay. All right. Mayor Bass.
Mayor Bass.
Any comment, Mayor Bass?
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, any comment?
Yes, my comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave.
Good luck with that. When Bass arrived on scene, a reporter asked for her comment, as you heard there, and she said, ICE needs to leave. Numerous immigration agents raided that park on Monday, including some riding horses and some wielding rifles in armored vehicles, according to the Los Angeles Times. The park has long been crime and drug-ridden. Protesters yelled and cursed at agents as they demanded they leave the park, according to the outlet. A 27-year-old man was shot and killed after he opened fire on Border Patrol agents going to work at McAllen, Texas, the facility on Monday morning. Authorities identified the shooter as Ryan Luis Mosqueda, believed to be 27-year-old. They said shot at agents exiting the building on their way to work, which is, of course, near the U.S.-Mexico border. Hours before the attack in McAllen, Mosqueda's father was stopped by Waslaco police around 2:30 a.m. for a traffic violation, according to police spokesperson Heriberto Caraveo. The father told police he was looking for his son, who he said had psychological issues and was carrying weapons in his car. Police say the white two-door sedan that Mosqueda drove to the facility had letters painted, possibly in Latin, on the driver's side door. Of course, we're excited about the new funding that the One Big Beautiful Bill provides Border Patrol and the mass deportation program. The border czar, Tom Homan, says it's going to take a lot more than we've currently seen in order to just undo the damage Joe Biden did.
And for those that say 3,000 a day is too much, I want to remind them, do the math. We'd have to arrest 7,000 every single day for the remainder of this administration just to catch once Biden released the nation.
I say let's do it and be legends. Well, I'm going to present to you a shot and a chaser. Here's the shot. While President Trump, of course, continues to post mostly big wins for the American people, Jeffrey Epstein thing notwithstanding, several Democrat lawmakers have expressed concerns as their constituents grow increasingly frustrated with what they view as inaction. Democrat Representative Brad Schneider of Illinois said, quote, "We've got people who are desperately wanting us to do something. No matter what we say, they want more. Some of them have suggested what we really need to do is be willing to get shot." It's according to another Democrat. These lawmakers, most of whom spoke to Axios on the condition of anonymity, also said most of these voters were white, well-educated, and live in upscale suburban or urban neighborhoods. So the base of support for the Democrat Party wants their representatives to get violent and take a bullet, just for reasons. Not sure what those reasons actually are. That's the shot. Here's the chaser. Here's Joe Scarborough on MSNBC just yesterday.
And why is it that in the Democratic Party, the three most compelling figures, the mayoral candidate, Bernie Sanders, and AOC, the three most compelling figures since the election have been far left of, let's say, the mainstream of a lot of Americans? Why can't moderate Democrats, why can't conservative moderate Democrats like you make that same compelling message?
So that's the chaser. Shot is that the constituents of certain Democrat lawmakers want their lawmakers to get shot, get violent. And the chaser is Joe Scarborough, just scratching his head, aghast, befuddled, bemused that the Democrat leadership, those in the spotlight, are some of the most radical leftists. It's maybe, I might submit, it's because the Democrat Party is that radical. These aren't one-off leaders. This is truly who the Democrat Party wants to represent them. Just bloodthirsty, America-hating communists. When we come back, America's governor responds to what Elon Musk is trying to do with the America Party. TSA is making a change that will be welcome for many travelers. And we hear from the man who saved almost 200 people amidst the Kerr County, Texas floods. That's coming up next. America's governor, Florida's Ron DeSantis, has some thoughts about Elon Musk's new America Party.
And the problem is when you do another party, especially if you're running on some of the issues that he talks about, that would end up, if he funds Senate candidates and House candidates in competitive races, that would likely end up meaning the Democrats would win all the competitive Senate and House races. And so, look, I'm a Republican. I don't want to see that happen. I think if you want to, get involved and hold accountable, we do have a problem in the Republican Party with these D.C. congressmen. They always run saying there's out of control spending and they're going to spend less, and they never do it. And so there's a gap between the campaign rhetoric and then the performance. Elon was doing Doge, and a lot of Congress didn't want anything to do with actually adopting the Doge cuts, just like they haven't wanted to adopt the Trump executive orders on immigration and all these other things, which I think you have to adopt in law if you want them to have staying power. So I think there is a lot of frustration with the gap between the rhetoric in their district and the performance once they get into D.C. But the way you do that is expose that in a primary and show that there's another way forward.
I think that is right on the money analysis there from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, talking about Elon Musk's new America Party, saying he could spend his money and resources and time a lot better by just going after Republican primaries. Of course, that is easy to see, and I'm glad that somebody is saying it, especially Florida's Ron DeSantis. However, I do think that there is a chance that Elon Musk's new foray into politics, his latest foray into politics, could actually end up costing the Democrat Party more than the Republican Party. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow on Air Analysis. But first, rejoice travelers all over the fruited plain. A time-honored tradition that makes no sense is coming to an end at an airport near you. At long last, the Travel Security Administration, or TSA, appears to be ready to roll back one of its most hated airport security rules. As of July 7th, according to an internal memo reported on by numerous travel industry sources, passengers will no longer be required to remove their shoes at agency checkpoints. The document is said to have cited technological advancements and a reevaluation of potential threats as deciding factors on the shoe statute's reversal. The change is, in fact, being rolled out at airports across the country as we speak. Travelers who apply and are cleared for TSA PreCheck have long been able to enjoy the wonderful benefits of not walking on filthy airport floors and stocking feet. But now the rest of us will be able to experience the sensation for the first time since the shoe bomber Richard Reed smuggled explosives on board in his footwear back in 2001. Yes, one guy was able to smuggle a small amount of explosives in his shoes one time. That means the tens, hundreds of millions of passengers since then have had to take their shoes off. I mean, what do they think that Grandma Mose is actually hiding in her shoes? What do they think she's hiding? A weapon of mass destruction? Maybe an AR-15? Can you fit an AR-15 inside your footwear? Good to see that stupid policy is finally coming to an end. It's always just one more thing that you got to do. Depending on the airport, TSA are either really chill or they just hate your guts. Depending on the airport. But not depending on the airport, what's really frustrating is trying to get everything, hey, laptops in this tray, backpacks in this tray. No, you got to keep your laptop with your backpack. Oh, and take your shoes off. It's just, TSA is a joke. Well, what's not a joke is this man. Scott Ruskin is a U.S. Coast Guardsman who was the only first responder at Camp Mystic in Kerr County, Texas this week. It's believed he saved about 165 people, including young girls. He talked to Good Morning America this week about his experience being the first and the only first responder during those horrific and deadly floods.
The Coast Guard launched us and decided to send a rescue crew from Air Station Corpus Christi at about 6:30, 7 a.m. on Friday, the 4th of July. I just happened to be on the duty crew with Ian Hopper, Blair Bourgeois, Seth Reeves, some of our crew members in the Coast Guard. And they sent us out. We kind of encountered some pretty serious weather, some of the worst flying we've ever dealt with personally. It took us, which should have been an hour flight, probably took us about 7 or 8. Just to get into the landing zone. Once made about 4 different approaches trying to get in, we were able to get boots on the ground with the Air National Guard, Department of Public Safety for Texas, game wardens. And we decided to leave me on scene at Camp Mystic. That was kind of our main triage site we were trying to help out with. And we decided, hey, if we leave the rescue swimmer on scene, we'll have more space in our Dolphin MH-65. So based on that, I got on scene, boots on the ground at Camp Mystic. Kind of discovered I was the only person there. As far as like first responders go. So yeah, I had about 200 kids mostly, all scared, terrified, cold, having probably the worst day of their life, and I just kind of need to triage them, get them to a higher level of care, and get them off the flood zone with a lot of the US-60 Army helicopters.
Talk about how that works. You got 165, close to 200 kids there. How do you get them out? Just one by one?
Yeah, sir, it's a great question. So the United States Army National Guard was landing their 60s with Task Force 1, some of their rescue swimmers, and they were able to land. We kind of came up with 2 different landing zones. There was one off an archery field and then one at a soccer field. So yeah, we were able to kind of land those 60s in there. And then I was kind of the main guy as far as like grabbing people, usually like 15 to 10 kids at a time, maybe one adult with them, and bringing them over to those 60s and getting them to a different LZ that was kind of safe and had more first responders than just myself out there.
Had you ever done this before?
No, this is my first one. I haven't had any cases before. I've been a rescue swimmer for about a year, fully trained for about 6 months. So yeah, this is my first experience, but I really just kind of relied on the training we get. Coast Guard rescue swimmers get some of the highest level training in the world. So really just kind of relied on that, and that, just knowing that any of the rescue swimmers in the Coast Guard would have done the exact same, if not better than me. So
training is one thing, but this was the real deal.
Yeah, this is definitely the real deal, but I just remembered that, when I got on scene, there was, 200 kids looking to someone for some sort of comfort and safety. They don't really know what my experience is or my rank or my age. They just know, hey, this guy's a professional and he's here to help us, and I kind of had to live up to that standard. But yeah, the real heroes, I think, were the kids on the ground. Like, those guys are heroic, and they were dealing with some of the worst times of their lives, and they were staying strong, and that helped inspire me to kind of get in there and help them out.
That is U.S. Coast Guardsman Scott Ruskin, who is the first and only first responder at Camp Mystic in Kerr County during those just devastating floods. And I just noticed something about this interview on Good Morning America, how humble and how diffusive of the praise that he was. He named each of his team members, gave them credit, and also said that the people he was rescuing were inspiring him as well. What a humble soul that is, and another indication, another example through just some of the worst natural disasters, one of the worst natural disasters I've ever seen. How there are glimmers of just incredible heroism and incredible strength in the midst of such terrible tragedy. And finally, air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. What in the world is going on with the Jeffrey Epstein story? I did not put this in the rundown for Monday morning's AM update. This broke late afternoon on Sunday, and everybody was talking about it into the evening, and I didn't put it in the rundown because I just thought for sure this was fake news. And it was being reported by Axios, which hates the Trump administration. And there was no indication from the Department of Justice or the Trump administration about the veracity of whether or not the DOJ actually believes what was produced is actually true, and that's their real stance. And then that came on Monday morning. And it's the White House's position that this is case closed now. We're just going to move on. This has been really terrible. I mean, Pam Bondi, I think, is two things. Let me set it up this way. James Comey, really good at his job, also captured by the left. Okay, good at his job, captured by the left. Jeff Sessions, Trump's former attorney general, bad at his job, diehard conservative. Okay? Captured by conservatism, if you will. Bill Barr, really good at his job, captured by one interest, and that was ending the Russian collusion probe. So he wasn't really much of an attorney general outside of ending that. Pam Bondi, bad at her job, and has been captured by some sort of thinking in the swamp. Captured by the swamp in general. That's a terrible combination, a deadly one. She said, responding to a question about whether or not the Epstein list existed and whether it was ever going to be released. And there are all sorts of clips going around right now about everybody at the highest levels of MAGA for years now talking about releasing the Epstein list. Today, those people are really, really quiet. Pam Bondi said it was sitting on her desk. Here's the thing that got me yesterday. I was kind of rolling my eyes about this entire escapade. I thought it was just Pam Bondi is way in over her head. She's really bad at this, bad at her job, bad at handling media, bad at handling expectations, just in over her head as Attorney General. And I thought maybe the disappointments from Dan Bongino, Kash Patel over at FBI, maybe we were overanalyzing those and it's just as simple as their boss sucks at her job. But did you see that story yesterday? I went and I was finally able to get on the DOJ's website after being blocked several times yesterday and review the 10-hour video that they released, purportedly showing the common room in the cell house or level where Jeffrey Epstein was stationed, and saying from this camera view, you would have been able to see anybody coming or going into the area where Jeffrey Epstein was held, despite the fact that is one of the first things that was reported on the story is that the cameras nearest to his cell were down. So they released this 10-hour video from, I think, 7 o'clock in the evening to 5 or 6 o'clock the next morning, the night that he allegedly killed himself. 10-hour video, except it was more like 9 hours and 59 minutes. Because at 11:59 p.m. in this video, it skips right to midnight. A minute of footage just missing. What would the odds be of everything in this story lining up the way that it did, and then the cherry on top is that their exculpatory evidence to defend their position that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself just happens to be missing, clerical error, 1 minute of video right around midnight. Just one more incompetence cherry on top. No. That's not what's happening here. I don't know who's running the show over the DOJ. All I know is that is the last straw right there. You're missing a minute of video. That was the moment when I said, somebody is laughing at us. Somebody is playing with us. Somebody is saying, pardon the French, F you. You're never going to get the truth. We're going to release a 10-hour video of surveillance footage that's not even his cell. And even that stupid evidence, which really doesn't paint the whole story, we're going to strip out a minute of it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Guys, this has been handled so poorly. It's almost like it's been handled poorly on purpose. And I don't know why, to what end. I've seen different theories. But the Trump Department of Justice is making a lot of his supporters look like absolute fools. Certain influencers, let's be honest, deserve to be made to look like fools, but this, I don't think, is one of those times. Time to clean house, really, at the DOJ and FBI. And it might start with the people who are on top of those agencies right now. That's going to do it for a Tuesday. Maybe back at it again tomorrow. We'll see. Have a good day. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.